Call the meeting to order.
Black,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bott,
Yes.
Nichols.
First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 24th, 2012 work session. Can we approve those since only two of us here that were there for that? So we'll pass on those this evening.
Steve may be back, so.
We'll move on to the approval of the minutes for the regular session on September 24th, 2012.
I move for passage of minutes.
Second?
Black,
Yes?
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bott,
Abstain as I was absent.
Under new business resolutions this evening, we have Bill number 2012-58, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Hofer Wyakowski Architects, LLC, HWA, to update the city's comprehensive plan. This is up for reading and passage. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. We are presenting to council an agreement to enter into with Hofer Wysocki Architects to do our comprehensive plan. And to give a little bit of background and detail, we will call on Community Development Director Rita Jackson.
The attached resolution authorizes the city manager to execute an agreement with Hafer Wysocki Associates, LLC, HWA, for the services to update the city's comprehensive plan. Request for qualifications for professional engineering and planning services was published in the Mexico Ledger on May 1st, posted on the city's website and the American Planning Association's websites, and mailed to 18 engineering firms. RFQs were received on May 16th, with 7 firms submitting. City staff, which consisted of Bruce Slagle, Kenzie Russell, and myself, and Planning and Zoning member Bob Marty, evaluated and ranked the RFQs. 4 firms were interviewed on July 5th and 6th. The interview panel consisted of staff, which was the 3 that I had mentioned earlier, City Councilman Williams, Planning and Zoning member Kyle Cohn, and Chamber Executive Director Dana Keller. The interview consisted of a 20 to 30-minute presentation, which was the firm's approach, their scope of work, and where they had worked previously. A 20-minute question and answer period, and a 10-minute wrap-up. The committee met again on July 16th, and based on the information gathered from the reference checks, the firms were narrowed to 2. The committee decided to request a scope of work and manpower hour budget from Schaefer, Klein and Warren and HWA, which were received on August 3rd. At the August 13th meeting, the committee made a recommendation to approve the firm of HWA to update the city's comprehensive plan. At the August 27th work session, council concurred with the committee's recommendation and authorized city staff to negotiate a contract and the cost with HWA. HWA was also present at that work session, at which time they gave a presentation to council, and they also answered questions that council had that night. The 2011 and 12 and the 2012-13 annual budgets allow $120,000 for the update of the comprehensive plan. HWA's contract amount of $107,830 with an add alternative with a maximum not to exceed $9,400. That add alternative is for the web-based public outreach program, which it has a range on it from $4,900 up to the maximum being $9,400, and that's a program that is a public outreach. This item was brought to council at the September 24th meeting. It was actually tabled at that time. Council felt that a contract this size, the firm should have been present. As staff stated that night, HWA, Brian Hamilton, had asked staff if it was necessary for them to be present. And staff felt that since they had been at the workshop and it was a question and answer period then, we told them that it was not necessary to be there. They also felt that the public outreach was not outlined enough in the scope of work. At that time, we stated that once the contract was signed, we would sit down and actually go into details further as to what that outreach would entail. And they also felt that when we made our presentation that we thought that we would go with this firm because it had a different take on the comprehensive plan, and it had talked about the economic development, and they felt that it was not addressed enough at that time. Here tonight, we do have Brian Hamilton with HWA and Troy Nash with the Zimmer Real Estate, and also with the firm. Sorry, ma'am, I didn't get your name. So staff is recommending that council proceed with the reading and passage of the resolution, and they are here tonight to give a presentation and answer any questions that the council might have regarding the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Brian Hamilton. I'm the Director of Urban Design and Community Planning for Hafer-Wysocki Architecture. And again, with me tonight is Troy Nash. He's a Vice President with Zimmer Real Estate Services and the Director of their Public Sector Consulting. Again, it's a pleasure to be here before you tonight. And again, we would like for us to be here at your discretion to answer any questions. I do have a presentation here that we can use as a tool, and it just simply will outline the process that really was the basis for our contract and our proposal. So if you'd like, we could go through that, or I can just answer questions directly at this time.
Why don't you just start through it?
And that's fine. And this is just a kind of a broad-based overview. And again, I think what we had discussed with Rita earlier, there were some questions about the public participation and the economic development component. Simply in the phases of the plan, our first phase is what we call a work plan and data assembly, and it's really logistics driven. It's about getting all of our ducks in a row, beak to tail, getting scheduling, getting dates, getting key locations, and really defining the public outreach. And I don't want to give the illusion that it is undefined, but there are several components that we still want to work with the advisory committee. And that's especially on the web-based tool, which we're recommending to use MindMixer, which is one of the top-of-the-line programs and companies. I personally know the owners out of Omaha, and I know the person that's the Kansas City administrator. And they use this program from anywhere in small communities to I think they're already engaged in Los Angeles in terms of public outreach and planning process. And essentially what that is it's a tool, a web-based tool that allows citizens who cannot make the face-to-face public venues that we're going to have, or they feel uncomfortable, they would like to maybe have that dialogue web-based. It allows us to do some surveying and things of that nature and organize and categorize and disseminate that information to me, who's the project manager and the planner, and see how that's fitting with all of our efforts. It's not a free-for-all forum. You have to identify yourself and your website or your email address, and they monitor it monthly so that if there's any, let's say, less than polite comments on there, they can actually block that user. So it's really a tool for meaningful dialogue, and depending on what you want to get out of it, and that's why we did an ad alternative to it. We will tailor make that process and that program, and we'll work with the advisory committee because, you know, obviously these things can get unlimited in the amount of things that you do, where I've seen them where they have a tool where merchants will actually sponsor it and you have so much input, you might get a discount somewhere, or it may be the very bare basics in terms of surveying, you know, help communicate when meetings are, getting input and all sorts of things like that. And that may, I'll have to talk a little bit more about, and that may be tied into your public access channel and all that. What our plan is to do is once we get to the phase 1 is to have an on-site demo with the MindMixer folks where we can actually have that electronic interaction and kind of show the various tools. And we want to be collaborative, and we want to tailor make it for the City of Mexico. And so I've asked MindMixer to give me kind of a low-end range based on what I was trying to accomplish here with the community to kind of a higher-end range, given the fact that we wanted to be budget sensitive. Now, for the public venues, we have 3 major events, and these are pretty much the ones that I run in all of my planning processes. The first one's a public workshop, and that's about education, kind of getting the community to understand what comprehensive planning is, why it's important to this community. And then we go through kind of a process so they can kind of understand where we're starting and where we want to end. And then we go into a very interactive portion where we're, you know, a good portion of this process that we undertake, we're about listening. You know, we're not sitting here saying, well, you know, this plan or this community needs 76 trombones. Our approach really is to listen and really hear the community voices. And so we'll go through some exercises in terms of, you know, what are the challenges that you face day to day in Mexico? What are some of the liabilities that you perceive that have there? What are some of the opportunities? What are the assets? And then we get into where we get some broad-based goals and aspirations, and it really gives us a kind of a quick snapshot where you can begin to get some general consensus on some items that we as consultant and working with your advisory committee begin to focus on and start the dialogue there. The second public venue is we hold an open house, and that's during the alternative approaches phases. When we listen, we want to go from the grassroots up, and we want to hear the concerns and the issues of this community and try to assemble all the data that we've researched, our own observations and analysis, and blend that in looking at a variety of different approaches to your community in terms of what you may or may be able to accomplish in 5 years, what are the opportunities in 10 years, we may even stretch that out to 20 years. What we do is we hold an open house for about 3 hours, and people can come and go as they please, and we'll set up stations, and it's a really good chance for the general citizenry to come talk to us one-on-one, look at different approaches, and ultimately where that goes is they start to see some things that are like, you know, that really could be the future of Mexico, or I like this piece. I don't even think about that. That's a ridiculous idea, but what it does is it begins to establish that sense of ownership by the community, because it is their plan, and it's important that it's their plan. And from that, we work with the advisory committee and move forward to kind of a preferred direction. And our last kind of public venue is really when we get down to really the meat of the content. We're here for a public workshop, say, here's how your plans evolved, here's where we're going. It's still not etched in stone. And then we also concurrently follow that up in that same trip with a council work session so that leadership can kind of ensure that says, you know, my constituency has been saying this, I do see this in your plan, or I see this in your plan, but that's not my interpretation, let's talk about it a little bit more. So those are the 3 really face-to-face meetings. Part of our deal, I'm sorry, I don't have a clicker. You know, phase 2 is research and analysis, and that's really where we kind of do our homework in terms of the physical realm, the market, the economics, demographics, whatever, and it's really data driven, and it's trying to understand a snapshot of Mexico, Missouri today, past to today, and see what's the, you know, sandbox that we're playing in as a community. Phase 3, observations and community discovery. Again, we come in here, and not only with the public workshop, but we spend, you know, pretty much 2.5 days having key stakeholder interviews. And part of our work plan, we have a little worksheet where we give the advisory committee and say, you know, if we have maybe 30 interviews in your town, who are the people that we need to be talking with? Can you bring us a consensus list, and can we begin working with you to schedule those people while we're in town so we can have a 30 to 45-minute conversation with them? And typically those are, and we'll give some suggestions from our past experience on, you know, who the usual players are, but it's totally to your discretion on who do you as a community think we need to be talking one-on-one with. And typically those might be people in the banking and the financial industry, real estate, department heads, major employers, merchants or merchants association, the historical society. It could be neighborhood groups. It could be citizens that you identify as good stewards of the community, and that dialogue needs to happen. And so we leave that at your discretion. We'll help make some suggestions, but we want, again, it's about ownership by this community in this process, because in the end, it's your plan. It's not our plan. It's your plan. Phase 4. That's the alternative approaches. That's the idea-driven when we go through and we look at various scenarios, and it's about dreaming the dream. You know, what could Mexico be? What should it be? What could it be? What can it be? And we go through that in kind of a unrestricted ideation. So we explore all opportunities, because the last thing we want to do in this process is what we call the 720 syndrome, that we get to a stage and then we got to go backtrack and revisit things that we've already addressed. And so we're trying to incrementally build ownership and momentum towards that preferred direction. And again, we'll think very much out of the box on some alternatives, and some might be kind of status quo. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what are the ramifications for that? But again, it's part of the education component of the community to understand how meaningful community building works. Phase 5. That's kind of the creative driven. That's where we take the preferred direction, the plan development, and that's developing the dream. A little bit of it we're doing crystal balling and seeing how that dreams and aspirations of the community translates into a 5, 10, 15, 20 year time frame. Again, and through all these steps, we have advisory committee conference calls on the product that we're delivering at each phase. Phase 6. Again, that's more content driven, and that's refining the dream. And again, that's where we come back. We have a really substantive plan, what I would call a 90% draft, and do the public workshop at the council work session. And again, every time we meet, we're going to wrap up with an advisory committee work session, just to make sure that we're continually building on that incremental piece of work that we go through. And then basically phase 7 and phase 8, it's all about detail driven and delivery and refining it, and obviously delivering a quality controlled draft that everybody can say that's everything that we've done in the process. By the way, you misspelled 2 words. Can we change it? And then finally, phase 8 is the final comprehensive plan, and that's really when implementation begins. That's when your journey begins in terms of implementation. Now, I know, and I may not answer everything about the public participation process, and I'll definitely want to answer any of your questions or concern. Let me talk about the market and economic piece very briefly, and my good friend over there with Zimmer Real Estate Services, who is an economist and works in the development realm, will know much more about this than I am. But essentially what we want to do in the economic development piece is we want to kind of get a macro and micro lay of the land. You know, what's going on in Mexico and Audrain County, what's translating to mid-Missouri, the nation, international aspects, because again, the world is shrinking in terms of technology, communication, and business. And you know, my friend here probably be the first to tell you that Missouri rural communities, they are global players. Is that a correct assumption? Becoming, okay. And there's no reason that we shouldn't consider that to have a dialogue with the Mexico leadership and the community, that may be an opportunity. From that, we build based on the plan and all the components and the dreams and aspirations, kind of an economic development strategy. You know, what do you need to be pursuing? What are some of the things that you need to activate that? What are some of the public-private partnerships that you may need in terms of business recruitment, business retention, things of those nature? And where we like to separate ourselves from anybody else in the comprehensive plan is we'll take actually one up to two areas here where we think is a catalyst project. It may be that we think that, hey, this particular project has some legs or has some merit, or it's worth continuing to pursue. And we'll actually do I'll just show you some examples if I may. And we have companion pieces. So people like Russell that's doing economic development, or Rita that's doing economic development, or whomever, can actually go out and have a piece of product that is marketing the community of Mexico for meaningful community development. Now, we don't know what that is right now. We don't know if it's industrial manufacturing, technology, agribusiness. It could be a neighborhood renaissance. We don't know what that is. We'll learn about that in the process. But we want to give the people that are doing meaningful community building in Mexico a little bit of the tools, so when they are at ICSC or any other development-related trade show or industry, they've got a piece where they can say, look what's going on, or what could be going on in Mexico. Look what is going to be supported in Mexico. And it's really trying to groom that acumen of meaningful community building. And Troy, do you want to add anything else in terms of the market and the economic component at this time?
Thank you very much, Brian. I think he did a wonderful job of doing it. First of all, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and to the staff gathered here, to the citizenry, thank you for giving us an opportunity to be here. For nearly a decade, I sat, well, not the mayor's chair, but the council chair in the city of Kansas City for nearly 10 years, and I would always remember these consultants coming before us, oh, no, not another one. And so I don't want to be part of that discussion. What I do want to stress, though, however, is a few quick points. I don't believe in coasters, placemats, and bookends. And for a number of years when I was in the council, that's what many of these plans were used for, in my experience. It was all wonderful. We start off strong and then nothing. And so what we do, Zimmer Real Estate Services, is work to inform the work done by planners. And Brian, I would argue, is not an ordinary planner. He's an out-of-the-box type thinker, and we at Zimmer, we like that, because otherwise we don't want to waste your time, energy, and effort, and frankly, your money on something that's just pie in the sky. So just philosophically, that's not who we are. Who we are, though, is a firm that has a background in commercial real estate and residential development. We've developed 3,000 acres of commercial real estate. And someone told me in my shop that that's about 521 football fields. Now, go do the math. I've not run the numbers on that, but that sounds about right to me. And so we build stuff, and I could name all of these marquee projects in the Kansas City region that you'd be familiar with: the Sprint Campus, Village West, New York Life, the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, and now the largest project in the state, the NNSA project, which is replacing the old Bannister Federal Complex, that old 5 million square foot post-World War II building there. And so we understand that part of the business. Our philosophy with respect to planning on behalf of communities like the City of Mexico is really very clear. We are going to encourage you all to trust your instincts. Because you live here, you know the community. Many of you have been part of the community for a number of years, and so as Brian said, we want to listen to you. So we would encourage you to trust your instincts. The other thing, we're going to encourage you all to take risk, and don't be afraid to fail. Now, that doesn't mean be frivolous with the taxpayers' money. I understand that part of the discussion as well. But there's risk involved, and so you're going to hear us talk a lot about the structuring of public-private partnerships for specific projects in this city. The government doesn't have the financial wherewithal to go out and purchase a large plot of land, make a commitment to the infrastructure, and take a risk on the vertical development. And at the same time, in this current economic and fiscal environment, the chances of developers like ourselves going into a community, buying the land, making a commitment toward the infrastructure, and taking the risk on the vertical development, probably not going to happen either. But what's more likely is a public-private partnership sharing equally and the risk and the rewards associated with the venture. So we're going to encourage you to take sensible risk in that regard. We're also going to encourage you to kind of break the rules. As Brian said, think outside the box. Now, Mayor, let me be clear here. I didn't say break the law. I said break the rules. And so what that means is this out-of-the-box thinking. Listen, globalization is real. And if you're familiar with the work done by, for example, Richard Longworth in his book, Caught in the Middle, he does an excellent job of taking an 8-state region, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa, and talking about the advent of globalization and how that's eroded both our manufacturing and agricultural base. You know, the Midwest did two things well, and of course we've been under attack ever since. In our plan, we're going to talk a little bit about immigration. It's a big issue. It's here to stay. And many of the communities that Brian and I work in, if you look at operations like Cargill or ConAgra, nearly 40% of their workforce are immigrants. And so communities are having to grapple with what that means to their area. And finally, here, Rita, and I know I'll sit down because I could go on forever. I like this stuff. The other thing, well, I do, is education. The Midwest is under attack in that area, and so we have to link our educational institutions, both K through 12, and our public and private colleges and universities, link them in a way that taps into that entrepreneurial spirit. And finally, entrepreneurship and innovation. You'll hear us talk a lot about that. If we are fortunate to be selected for this and to move forward with this contract, while Brian is doing these broader community conversations and stakeholder interviews, I'm identifying bankers, financial institutions, developers, entrepreneurs, those who are thinking about entrepreneurship, and really, really identifying that class or grouping of individuals and finding out what they need and connecting them with other resources in the state. Someone told me you have a very prominent politician here that's used to providing resources across the state for projects, and I'll just say in closing, even when I was in office and had a big project in my district, he was very helpful, and I never forgot that. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and city staff, if there are any additional questions that you have for us, we'd be delighted to answer them at this time.
I guess I'll ask questions. One of the reasons that I was the last meeting is I saw a lot of conference call, and I'm really a face-to-face kind of guy. I think you get more, you can read people's body language, you can see in their eyes, you know, because we do conference calls where we do them every week. I have no idea what they're saying. I mean, they're good for informational, but they're not so good to back and forth on ideas. So that was my worry is I didn't want it to be phoned in, you know.
No, and the reason, and the conference calls are just limited to major delivery checkpoints with the advisory committee. And when we're in town 3 times, we're doing face-to-face with advisory committee. And again, with Skype and other tools available, and that's a logistical thing to work out with staff, we certainly are open to that. It's more just in my experience, I was trying to save a little bit of money for you here and put it into more product. You know, it's the old adage of driving 2.5 hours for an hour meeting than 2.5 hours back. And I rather put that time and money into product because that's an advisory committee. And again, we can do the face-to-face electronically. If they need to be face-to-face meetings, you know, it's a budgetary thing, and we can certainly revise and account for that if you want a trip every phase. I was just trying to be sensitive to a budget.
Well, I talked to our tech guy, and if Skype would work for you guys, it would work for us, apparently.
Yeah.
from what he said.
I have
So-
no idea how it works, but I've got a IT staff that I'm sure can baby me through it, and we can get it done. So we'll certainly do that as part of the work plan in terms of hooking and linking technology, and we'll, for the most part, say that's going to be the plan of operation for the advisory committee conference calls.
When you guys plan on staying in for a couple of days, are you planning on staying in town?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I was thinking about hours. I was like, are they going to come here for a day and then
No,
have
no,
a
no,
5
no,
hours
no,
of drive time?
no.
It's like-
Of course, my consultant team will probably be stacked up at one of the hospitality places here. I, on the other hand, have a bedroom at my mother-in-law's house that I can get warm and cozy. So, yes, no, our trips, we're staying in Mexico. We're not driving back and forth to Kansas City. I think the first trip, we're slated to come in one morning and be here for 3 full days. The second one's probably 2.5 days, and the last one's probably a day and a half here. So we'll definitely. I always like to spend a little bit of money in the places that I work. So.
Well, you kind of answered my next question, because my next question was going to be, is it going to be just one guy come, yourself, or you bring some people with you?
When we come for the 2 meetings, it's going to be myself, Mr. Nash, and John Forrester, who's our engineering with Olson's Associates, and he's out of the Springfield. And he's going to be there for the first 2 trips. The third trip by then, it's going to be Troy and myself. Because at that point, I think the very technical product, that the engineering component in terms of infrastructure and transportation and all that, I think should be well defined, and that's the plan. And again, I'm trying to create a budget that is sensitive, that gets you the most scope and the most product, instead of travel hours and being in a car and things like that. And so that's how I kind of built that.
And when you do stakeholder interviews, you were talking one-on-one. Have you, what's your experience in doing, the group, bankers in general, or contractors in general, or?
Are you talking about the group specifically, or having a bunch of them?
Having, the group, a group of contractors kind of talking there.
Sometimes they don't play nice. And but what we're looking for is kind of the honest exchange and dialogue. And I've even been in process where the client said, look, the Rotary Club's having a luncheon. Would you go while you're here, spend an hour with them at their luncheon and present and maybe get a little input? Yeah, that's great. I mean, when we're here, we'll pack as much as we can. I mean, I'm even hoping that some of those meetings will actually be at somebody's facility, like Mid-America Brick or the Historical Society. I don't know, but actually doing a facility tour. And so when we come up for the stakeholder interviews, there's going to be 3 of us. And if we divide and conquer, and I have John, who the engineer is he's focusing on groups that may want to focus on infrastructure or sustainable infrastructure, things like that, he can take that track. Troy obviously would. There you are. Troy would be talking to the finance people and the developers and maybe contractors, and I may be dealing with a whole separate group. And so with the 3 of us here, we could end up doing 30 key stakeholder interviews by the time. Again, it's just as much as we can get on these trips. That's really our goal.
Ryan, may I answer that? Because I think that's a very good question. One of the things, and I learned all this planning stuff from Ryan, watching him sort of banter about asking, and he's very dynamic and this kind of thing, but there are sometimes, Councilman, things that people will not say in a group sitting. And I can tell you that Stacy and I, in our most recent endeavor in Saline County, we're doing the comprehensive plan for all of Saline County, Sweet Springs, Slater, Marshall, and what started off as a little bitty thing is just, I don't think it'll ever end. I mean, these are family and friends down there. But when we engaged in the stakeholder interviews, boy, we got all kind of nuggets there. And even before we are complete with the planning process, we already have 6 projects. We just broke ground on a hospital there, Fitzgibbons Hospital, there just last week there. And so those stakeholder interviews are very, very, very important, and allows us to get, as Brian said, on a very personal basis. And finally, Councilman Williams, and this is not addressed to him, it's to you. Why can't I stay at your mother-in-law's house? I mean, you just kind of snuck that right in there.
Well, you're more than welcome, Troy. I just don't know if somebody that's 6'4" could sleep on a 4-foot couch, but I'll be more than happy to. And you're going to stop by for some meatloaf on the way uptown, aren't you? Before we leave. Okay, very good. Yeah, I'll take it out of your scope. But in all seriousness, it's a valuable time that we spend. And again, we look at this as a partnership. We're going to make your advisory committee and your staff probably work just as hard as we do. I know we didn't talk about that, but it's a partnership. And really, in terms of a successful planning process, it's when you have elected officials as yourselves, the stewards of the community, and the staff that people see on day to day. And it's that sense of ownership, and when the community looks at that you guys are also the partners in terms of facilitating this process. it is a much better win-win situation for the process.
And then my last question is, at the end, y'all have opinions of probable cost. Is that just if we wanted something more concrete? I mean, when you do the plan, you're kind of going to go, well, that's probably a cost, or...
Yeah, they're order of magnitude cost. I mean, you know, let's take a catalyst project, and if we went through, in architectural parlance, went through schematic design and design development, well, we'd almost have to double our fee. But we can come up, based on our expertise and experience and some of the intel that we get here, kind of a broad-based range. So, and where that makes that important for everyone is when we're talking about capital improvement programs. You know, if there's a catalyst project that you know, that feels like it's a good community fit, the market and the number says it's a possibility, or it's something feasible, and the public-private partnership is the right thing to go, then that gives you something at least to discuss in your capital improvement program. So if it's something that you think is going to be activated in 3 years, you can kind of have that dialogue to see if you need to amend that in a range. Also, too, with comprehensive planning, and again, I talked about this in the interview, and I think when we last met, this isn't a silver bullet. This isn't the answer to end all answers. A good comprehensive plan will bend but not break. There'll be things 5 or 6 years from now that you may want to have staff come together and say the market dynamics changed here, or our community income has changed here, and you're going to have to adjust for that. But at least it gives you a framework where you can begin to talk about those broad-based conversations. And again, there's a lot of things in a typical comprehensive plan that says, okay, when you're ready to activate this project, here's the next step of detail that you need to invest in. And again, that's even if there was the money to do it, I don't think you'd want to go to that kind of level at this point with some of these things.
Well, thank you very much. And we've had a couple of bad experiences, I guess you heard, with plans. The city did, and then the downtown had a project, and they're not with that.
Go ahead.
It seems you two are very, very knowledgeable at what you do, and you come across that way. And I'm impressed with that knowledge. And I think Mexico will be very lucky if that knowledge flows into this document, and we can use it moving forward. So.
Well, we appreciate that, and I don't know anything about what happened in your last process. And the downtown was a state-funded DREAM initiative. Was that? Yeah. I can't talk about that. What I can talk to is about myself and actually my working relationship with Troy and Zimmer Real Estate Services. Not only is this our profession, but this is our passion. And again, I think in terms of maybe going through the vetting process, we've never not delivered to a client, and we've always felt like we've delivered exceptional product for the price. And you know, our practice is based on our reputation. You know, in this field, you could do 1,000,000 things right and one thing wrong, and that's everybody will talk about the one thing wrong, and that's all they remember. So we're very cautious that we don't do that.
On page 1, you were talking about this web-based public outreach. Is that to be able to do that, is that the $9,400 add-on? Or?
It's a range between, I think, $4,900 to $9,400, I believe. I've got my contract back there. Yeah, again, you know, when I was talking with Dave Nopick, that's the Mind Mixer administrator, who I worked with for 15 years when we were building a practice at another firm. It's just there's so many questions on there. There's so many items, and in terms of what they can offer and how they can do it. And I just felt it was our due diligence to have that conversation. Thank you, Troy. Have that conversation with your advisory committee to tailor make it, because the last thing you want to do is you don't want to spend money on things that aren't really relevant to this community, because you know your community better than we have. And let's have that dialogue and let's tailor make it. I last spoke to Dave a couple weeks ago, and before you commit to anything, he wants to have an online web session and kind of go through all the things that they want, and then price it out, and if we tailor make it for you, because it's your money, and we want to use it as most effectively as possible. That anything you're investing in with this team, you're going to get the best out of, best bang for your buck. And so I guess I can't answer exactly what it is because it has so many different things, but I do know it's the tool to use in web-based public outreach. Even we added as an ad alternate because I even asked the question: do you even want to do web-based? Is it even important to this community? And so I didn't want to commit to your dollars doing that. And so, and again, if you make the decision to say, you know, the web-based thing, you know, we'll just put a link on our website and we'll do some informational thing, and maybe we'll do one Survey Monkey thing and whatever, and that's just fine for us. I'll call Dave and say, scratch it, man, you're out. And so that's the flexibility I wanted to give with you guys.
So we are approving the 117,230 tonight then, if we approve this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I had one other question. It seems like we got some duplication going on here in the community. We have another consultant working with us on our tech park out there that's contacting people for leads. Will this group be doing the same thing? Or have I got something confused here?
I apologize. I snuck in on you. For those that don't know, Bruce Slagle, City Manager. I was at Chillicothe this afternoon with the Mexico High School girls at a golf outing, and for sectionals, they came in third today. So, and my daughter's playing on the team, so I had to be there. Yes, we have another group working on development, and that will tie in right into this whole thing. And because economic development is a section of this. And even though they're looking at some of the same kinds of things, they'll work hand in hand together, and they'll tie back and forth to each other, and all the information can be shared back and forth. So one kind of helps offset the other.
I guess I was concerned because, you know, this one consultant is out talking to people and getting information from them, and then in another couple of months, going to come another consultant and ask them similar questions, or? I mean, it seems like an overlap here.
Your Honor, some of it will be similar, but we'll also share that information back and forth with them as well, both sides of it.
Yeah, and what I'll say in meaningful community building, you should never delay a good opportunity when it presents itself. I think because this is common, especially in communities that are much larger, that they have so many pieces of the puzzle in there. What we'll do is, we'll either, if we can get the contact information, and as we get through the web-based, we'll start contacting them and start comparing our process to what they're doing, and then they may actually be one of our key stakeholders that come here. My point is that it shouldn't delay any meaningful opportunity, and we certainly will weave it in, especially if you're getting some reality to it. And Troy, in your experience as a master developer, these things happen all the time, and we can put that piece of the puzzle in there, and how that influences and what you can build upon that. So it's a good problem to have if you've got things out there like that.
Your Honor, one other point I'd make, these guys are looking community-wide, and that was much more focused to the tech park itself. Even though we'll be asking some of the same questions, that was more focused. This is more broad-based.
I just want to say I like the way you think. I'm beginning to see why the advisory committee is recommending you. Your expertise, your enthusiasm, and you touched on a couple of things that are really, I think, key to a small community: entrepreneurship and partnerships, and also the whole thing about buying in, because you can come in and tell us what you think we need, and it'll sit on the shelf. And we don't need that. We don't need to spend that kind of money to not have buy-in from the community. And I appreciate very much your focus on that.
Well, thank you again. it's going to be the community's plan. We're going to navigate a process, we're going to lend some creativity and expertise, and we're going to take those community aspiration goals and try to go from theory to real-world implementation the best we can. But again, people have got to support it, they've got to feel ownership, and it's their plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move for a reading of bill number 2012-58.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Bill number 2012-58, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Hoffer Wysocki Architects LLC to update the city's comprehensive plan, whereas the city is interested in retaining professional planning services for the preparation of an updated comprehensive plan, and whereas Hoffer Wysocki Architects is duly experienced in providing said services, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the city manager is hereby authorized to enter into an agreement with Hoffer Wysocki Architects LLC, 11460 Tomahawk Creek Parkway, Suite 400, Leawood, Kansas 66211, to provide services for the update of the city's comprehensive plan in the amount of $117,230. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. I move for passage of bill number 2012-58.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Next on the agenda, we have bill number 2012-60, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Audrain City County Health Unit for services provided to the citizens of Mexico. This is up for reading and passage. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. The attached resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Audrain City County Health Unit to assist in providing health, environmental, and emergency preparedness services to the citizens of Mexico. The City of Mexico would contribute to the Audrain City County Health Unit the sum of $26,875 to provide community health activities in Mexico, Missouri. This payment is included in the 2012-2013 annual budget and is the final support payment to the ACCHU. As council is aware, a mill tax was placed on the ballot and passed in 2011 for the Audrain City County Health Unit to receive funding to support their programs. We have with us this evening the director of the health unit, Kevin Lawrence, and he wanted a few moments to address the council and the public. And afterwards, we would certainly recommend that the City of Mexico and the ACCHU enter into the agreement to provide community health activities to its citizens of Mexico.
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting me tonight and allowing me to address you all. April 1961 was when the City of Mexico first joined into the compact agreement. That was 51 years ago. And since then, we've had a partnership that whole length of time. And I think it's been a good partnership. We do appreciate the support that the City of Mexico has given. This is the last installment of that compact agreement. Come 1 January of 2013, we will cease to exist as the Audrain City County Health Unit. Because of the mill tax that the citizens passed, we will become the Audrain County Health Department. That will be our new name. And that compact agreement will cease altogether. So the partnership has been an important one for us over the years. And as you all are aware, and Bruce and others in the room here, we plan on maintaining that partnership. I've made a commitment to not only maintain a partnership with the City of Mexico, but also with the Audrain County Commission, City of Vandalia, and Audrain Medical Center, which are all partners in this compact agreement. And the mayor knows this because he's attended our meetings and everything. On October 22nd of this month, we are going to have our last Board of Directors meeting. And we plan on having a joint meeting with the Board of Directors and the Board of Health that was newly installed in April of this year. all my staff will be there, and I'd like to invite the council and anybody else in the room that would like to come to this meeting. There'll be cake and yeah.
What time?
And there-
What kind of cake?
Kay Dubert's actually making the cake, I think, so it ought to be pretty good. So. But I just wanted to thank you all again for the 51 years. We've had our ups and downs over the years, but it has been an experience, and I think the citizens of Audrain County and Mexico and Vandalia have all benefited from that compact agreement. We will be, when we do change, there will only be one other county left that will operate in the same capacity like we did before. And I'm working with them to try to get a mill tax on their initiatives too, you know, and everything. So, but any questions that you guys have for me, anybody?
Don't have any questions, I don't think, but we hope this partnership in a little bit different form can continue, because this is certainly a benefit to the citizens of Mexico. So thank you.
We will still continue to do the restaurant inspections. Bruce and I have talked a lot about different things that we'll be looking at. We have to change the food code. I'm working on, right now, the whole code book lists public health within it many times. And we have a pretty thick document now that will have to come back to you all and have to make changes. And you won't have to designate necessarily like the public health officer like you did before. The whole food code, chapter 5, I think, will pretty much cease to exist, because initially we'll have to inspect under the state codes, but we are planning on putting in a food code for Audrain County itself. Grease trap inspections, I'm writing up a contract with Bruce on that, so we can continue to do the grease trap inspections for all the restaurants and facilities in the City of Mexico and everything. So those type of things we'll continue to work with together. And I appreciate your guys' input, and appreciate the 51 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Move for reading of bill number 2012-60.
Second.
Lesh,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes. Bill number 2012-60, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Audrain City County Health Unit for services provided to the citizens of Mexico. Whereas the City of Mexico recognizes the many benefits derived by the city and citizens resulting from the services provided by the Audrain City County Health Unit, and whereas the City of Mexico acknowledges the need for these health, environmental, and emergency preparedness services, and whereas the City of Mexico and the Audrain City County Health Unit desire to enter into an agreement to provide these services to the citizens of Mexico for the fourth quarter of the ACCHU's CY12. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the city manager is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with the Audrain City County Health Unit to provide health, environmental, and emergency preparedness services in the amount of $26,875. A copy of the agreement is attached. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. I move for passage of bill number 2012-60.
Second.
Lesh,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
Next, we have on the agenda bill number 2012-61, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist in providing services for senior citizens. This is up for reading and passage. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, the attached resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist in providing services to its senior citizens. A narrative of the nutrition program is attached for council review. Just a couple of highlights I thought were very worthy of noting is it says in the narrative that they serve approximately 268 meals per day, approximately 68,000 meals annually. They work along with health screenings. They give nutritional educations to its attendees, and they provide various recreational activities. The other thing worth noting, Sally Crow is the director, and she's here with us this evening. I noted in the narrative that she has gathered approximately 250 volunteers to help with the program. So that in itself speaks highly of Sally's efforts and her ability to get people to work together on such a valid effort. Again, I would recommend that the City of Mexico and the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center enter into an agreement, and that council give reading and passage to the attached resolution. And Sally, again, is here this evening if there should be any questions that you would like to have her answer.
Did you want to say a few words, or? Thank you.
Just a few words. I'd like to thank the council for all your support in the past. The nutrition program here in Mexico and Audrain County is very, very important to a great many people. We provide a lot of things besides nutrition. I think socialization is very, very important, and maybe just as important as the nutrition. I would invite all of you to come to the senior center, and I know some of you have, to come down and have lunch and see what we're all about. Thank you for your support, and we do have a lot of volunteers, and believe me, we could not exist without them, because actually we only have 4 staff people down there, 2 of them full-time, the other 2 part-time. So, okay, is there any questions y'all might have?
Just thank you for your service.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I move for reading of Bill number 2012-61.
Second.
Yes.
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 Bill number 2012-61, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist in providing services for senior citizens. Whereas the City of Mexico recognizes the many benefits provided by the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to its senior citizens, and whereas the City of Mexico acknowledges the need for programs, activities, and nutritional luncheon services provided to senior citizens, and whereas the City of Mexico and the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center desire to enter into an agreement to continue to provide these services, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the city manager is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist in providing services to senior citizens. Agreement attachment hereto and marked as Exhibit A. Section 2, the resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. And I move, Your Honor, for passage of Bill number 2012-61.
Second.
Yes.
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 Item D on our agenda, we will pass on that tonight. I don't think we're ready to address that as of this time. Under new business ordinances, we have Bill number 2012-63, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri, conveying a strip of land 3.5 feet in width to the Mexico Property I-1 LLC. 2 readings by title only in passage. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. In preparation of a purchase transaction between Offenburg Motors and Carroll Motors, we found that there was a 3.5-foot strip of land that runs right along the east side of Offenburg Motor building and the parking lot immediately east of that. We see if we can pull that up on the screen. Okay. This will show specifically the tract of land that we're talking about. And Kenzie, if you don't mind kind of pointing out that strip of land for the council.
Part 3.
Yeah, she knows her way.
Piece right here, their building would sit here. It's all the way through from Liberty Street down to the railroad right of way.
And of course, we found that the city certainly does not have any use for that 3.5-foot strip of land between those two properties, and it would be beneficial for the property owners to have that contiguous pieces of property. So therefore, we are recommending to council proceed with 2 readings by title only and passage of the attached ordinance, which would convey that property for the price of $10 and other good and valuable considerations.
I guess is there's nothing buried underneath the ground heading down that alley or that 3-foot wide path? Do we know?
We did a record search on all of the various utilities. There is the overhead electrical service to the Offenburg building, but there's no public utility there. Patrick, if you want to throw up the 1914 map, as best as we could tell, the blue dashed line there towards the bottom of the map is where that strip is, which the strip was conveyed to the city in 1922. 1914 was the closest map I could find for that. And there was a movie house to the east and a coal yard to the west, and that strip, anecdotal evidence was variously a sidewalk for Crown Linen to access the railroad platform, since they moved their laundry by rail then, or possibly a sidewalk to go to a speakeasy. The Hotel Hoxley is there just to the east. But anecdotal evidence, but 3.5 foot wide, we think it probably was for sidewalk purposes.
Any questions? Okay, I move for first reading by title only of bill number 2012-63.
Second.
Nash,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
An ordinance, bill number 2012-63, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri conveying a strip of land 3.5 feet in width to Mexico Property I LLC. I move for passage of bill number 2012-63. Oh, second reading, sorry. Move for second reading of bill number 2012-63.
Second.
Nash,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
Bill number 2012-63, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri conveying a strip of land 3.5 feet in width to Mexico Property, or Mex Property I LLC. I move for passage of bill number 2012-63.
Second.
Nash,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
Under old business ordinance, this evening we have bill number 2012-59, an ordinance amending chapter 14, article 3, division 4, section 14-123 of the Mexico City Code relating to sanitary sewer use charge. This is up for second reading by title only and passage. Roger.
As council is aware, a public hearing and first reading for consideration was given to council on September 24th, 2012. Both background and future planning information for making necessary capital improvements to the wastewater treatment facility and collection system was provided at that meeting. Staff has provided council and the public a 10-year financial projection of wastewater rates required to cover costs associated with operations, maintenance, and capital projects currently underway and forthcoming, addressing both capacity and compliance in the city's wastewater treatment operation. Based on the 10-year financial projection, staff finds it necessary to recommend a rate adjustment, and of course this is the second reading of that particular ordinance. The current administrative charge for all customers is $6.62 per month. The adjustment would bring that to $7.42 per month. The monthly variable portion per 100 cubic feet would go from $3.45 to $3.87. Staff recommends that council proceed with the second reading by title only and passage of the attached ordinance.
Can I say something? We put out a newsletter or something along those lines, do we not, as a city? I think it would be beneficial if we put something out there telling the community how this has come about, because apparently the majority of the community thinks this is just us up here deciding this. And I tell them, I go through the whole spiel, we've had the vote, and people just don't seem to remember this vote. I know it happened, it's not a mystery, but because they're just not getting it. And like the lady that came last time, she just didn't understand there was a vote, and they think that we're just making this stuff up as we go. Not that they question whether we need to do it or not do it. They don't understand this is something that we're kind of obligated to do. As you explained last time, we have bonds and stuff, and we have to make these obligations. So I think it might be beneficial, some kind of outreach to inform the community what this is about. So, because a lot of them come to me all the time lately, especially at this time of year when they get this sewer thing, and they're like, why are you guys, like, oh, we have to do this stuff. So I think it's just a matter of if we could do something, letter or on the website or something to explain to people.
Letter comes out the 1st of December, just make this American.
I think that would be helpful, so people,
And we could give an overview of the completion of Phase 1, and of course, the wrapping up of Phase 2.
I think that would be a good idea too, kind of tell people what's going on, what's happening out there.
And I believe we even have some updates available on our website now, Kenzie, as far as tracking some of the pictures of improvements out at wastewater.
We were doing that until we lost our clerical help up here, and I think we've probably fallen behind with Phase 2 on that, but we can certainly catch that up. I think we have a new hire that will be starting within the next couple of weeks.
All right, very good. We'll be glad to do that.
Thank you.
I move for second reading of bill number 2012-59 by title only.
Second.
Lash,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Bott,
Yes. Bill number 2012-59, an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Article 3, Division 4, Section 14-123 of the Mexico City Code relating to sanitary sewer use charge. I move for passage of bill number 2012-59.
Second.
Lash,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Bott,
Yes.
Under other business this evening, we have a staff report, the 2013 dental insurance agreement. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. The city staff has been reviewing group dental insurance bids for the upcoming benefit year, which begins January 1, 2013, and runs through December 31st, 2013. The city received 8 dental insurance quotes through the professional services of area agencies. Of those 8 quotes, we received a quote from MetLife for a single premium rate of $17.89 per month and a family rate of $55.83 per month, which is favorable pricing compared not only to the price we pay now, but to the other quotes we received for 2013. Plus, their benefit year limit met each of the comparisons of the other 7 quotes provided, and they paid the highest on the use on customary rate at 99% versus 90 and 85% with other providers. Giving full consideration to the 8 providers providing quotes to the City of Mexico, MetLife provided the best overall dental plan when comparing factors of price, network, percentage of use on customary paid, annual benefit paid, and financial strength. MetLife has extended an offer to place a 2nd-year rate with a ceiling adjustment of 8% over the first year's rate. When considering the offer compared to quotes received from other providers, including our current provider, the 2nd-year cap rate is appealing. Basically, we'd be offered that 8% cap, but if we're not satisfied with the servicing, we could deny it. So it's kind of a one-way option. We get the benefit of knowing the cap, but we don't necessarily have to accept it. Staff recommends MetLife as the dental benefit provider for calendar year 2013 with an option to renew for calendar year 2014 based on excellent service experience and the rate ceiling guarantee. Staff also recommends that Gallagher Insurance Group be the agency of record based on the quality of service provided to the City of Mexico in the past. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
What's our current rate?
Current rate is $18.69 per month for an employee and $55.45 for family coverage. So the proposed MetLife rate for single coverage is less than what we are currently paying, but is slightly more, I think, to the degree of about 38 cents per month for the family coverage.
Coventry come in pretty close there, didn't they? Or
They-
Coventry?
Yeah, Coventry did come in close on the pricing. They were a little higher on the individual and a little lower on the family, but their benefit limit is substantially lower. They're $1,000 on the benefit limit versus $1,500 for MetLife. And then also, if you would happen to go out of network with Coventry, they're going to pay 90% of UCR, whereas MetLife will pay 99% of usual and customary rate.
Other questions? Well, I move that we accept the bid of MetLife as being the 2013 dental insurance provider.
Second.
Lush,
Yes?
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Boswell.
Yes.
Next, we have appointments to the Mexico Tourism Commission. Roger?
Okay, this agenda item concerns two openings to the Mexico Tourism Commission, which need to be filled by City Council. Advertisement have been placed asking the interested citizens submit applications. The Mexico Tourism Commission, Janine Vogel was appointed to the commission in July of 2012 to an unexpired three-year term that did expire this past September 2012. Camilla Clark, the hotel motel representative, has resigned her position due to her not being involved in that business industry anymore. Mrs. Clark's term expires September 2014. Janine Vogel has expressed an interest in reappointment to serve a three-year term, and Sheila Botka has expressed an interest in serving the unexpired term of Mrs. Clark's. Mrs. Botka is involved in the hotel motel business through the Budget Inn, and staff requests that council make the necessary appointments to the Mexico Tourism Commission, and that will fill all 5 positions.
Has Mrs. Botka been on there before?
I believe she has. Yes.
She was one of the original commissioners.
Right.
She also served 2 terms.
Okay.
And the bylaws state that she can serve, if there's a break, then she can be reappointed.
I move for the appointment of Janine Bogle to the Tourism Board. I have to do these individually, don't I? Yes. Move for the appointment of Janine Bogle to the Tourism Commission.
Second.
Lush,
Yes?
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Boswell.
Yes.
I move for the appointment of Ms. Botka to the Tourism Commission to
Second.
fill the open appointment.
Second.
Lush,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Boswell.
Yes.
Next, we have the claims. Any questions on the claims? If not, I move we pay the claims. Yes?
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Yes.
And we're down to council comments. Councilman Botts.
I don't believe I have anything this evening.
Councilman Williams.
I'd just like to say another fine outing by Goldcrest with their bird expo, and it brings a lot of people into Mexico, and it really brings a lot of dollars into Mexico. We can see it in our business, so I'm sure other businesses see it as well. So just like to congratulate them on another successful year. I hope it continues.
That was good to see a pretty good crowd over at the Walk Back in Time. The weather held up good for it. That was really good. It's good to hear that we're moving along in the planning stages for the park improvements. I wanted to mention that tonight, especially the restrooms down at Garfield. I know I've been on that a lot. Mayor, as I'm sure you know, and it's already probably been brought up by the media, this is National Fire Prevention Week. It's a good time to check the smoke detectors. As a little history, that was first proclaimed by President Wilson in 1920. And since 1922, it's always been observed on the Sunday to Saturday period in which the 9th of October falls. The importance of that being that was when the Chicago fire occurred, the 8th and 9th of October in 1871.
Roger?
Just a couple of items. We do have Capital Railroad in town tomorrow to work on the railroad crossing on Lakeview Road. We anticipate that work to begin at approximately 8 a.m. And of course, they'll stay there and work on the project until they complete it tomorrow. And the Public Works staff has set up detour information, and I think they've even got other plans with gravel and dump trucks if we need to make an emergency passage during that construction. Is that correct, Kinsey?
Yes, we've got
Okay.
a contingency.
Okay, very, very good. Next, Russell and I and Jay Jacoby will be meeting with CMT this week to discuss the protection zone out the airport and look at an updated airport layout plan. So we're good to happy to get to work on that since we may have some grant money to start on some improvement projects out there. And we also want to thank Side Strickers for trailering our 1971 LaFrance to the Jefferson City 100-year fire protection celebration this past weekend. My understanding is we did have the second oldest truck there, and it was highly viewed because of how the staff here, fire staff, had polished it up and made it look very good. So again, I want to thank Side Strickers for helping us with trailering it to Jefferson City. Not that it might not have been able to make it on its own, but we didn't want to take that chance.
Okay. Walk Back in Time was a great event this weekend before last, I guess. Does anyone know how many folks attended? Seems like a fairly large crowd.
Dana thought a little less than last year, but because we didn't have the 175th anniversary part portions of it there, but it was a pretty stiff crowd. So 10,000 somewhere in that.
I had a chance to drive on Kentucky a little bit yesterday and noticed the first part of the project looking pretty good, where they've got the curb and the gutter and the connection to the driveways there. So part looked like it was coming along pretty good. Okay, any public comments? I see none.
You sir have the white hat.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.